It's been about 4 months since Dream's super lucky speedruns, and 2 months since the speedrun.com moderators rejected his submitted run. By this point, everybody and their great-grandmother's third cousin twice removed's dog has made a clickbait video about it, including this surprisingly excellent parody making fun of both sides.
How does it feel to be at the end of the line, Dream?
Should I call someone? Should I call my agent?
Dream, just imagine how terrible this is going to be for your integrity.
God, all my 1 million IQ play compilations, dozens and dozens of videos, and hundreds of minutes of me just owning people with the smartest plays imaginable, and that's all gone now. Because you really did it.
I did.
This is the smackdown of the century.
Prepare to get smacked.
So what's left to be said? Well, in my opinion, a surprising amount, actually. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the first person to raise the points I'm about to raise, but I rarely saw anyone else talking about them, so I figured I'd make a video about it myself. This video has 3 parts, and there are timestamps in the description so that you can skip to the parts that interest you most if you want to. Part 1 is a recap of all the major events that went down since this fiasco started, complete with a summary of how multiple math-focused channels have weighed in on the statistical evidence to show that it's essentially a mathematical fact that Dream used a mod to boost drop rates for pearls and blaze rods. Part 2 is where I make the argument that, in my opinion, the fact that Dream used a mod is almost a non-issue. And part 3 is where we take a detour from talking about Dream specifically, and instead use this whole situation as a reason to talk about something that I personally think is even more important. This video took a ton of effort to research and edit, so if you like it, please consider subscribing. I'm currently trying to reach 100 subs, and if you could help me get even just a little bit closer to that, it would really make my day. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the video. Part 1. What actually happened? It all started in October of last year when Dream did 11 speedrunning live streams, 6 of which later became the target of analysis. Another leaderboard speedrunner was watching those streams and noticed Dream's drop rates for pearls and blaze rods were so incredibly high that he decided to count the drops and figure out the exact rates himself. According to his tweet, roughly 15% of Dream's barters yielded pearls, and roughly 69% of his blaze kills yielded rods, whereas the expected odds, according to the Minecraft wiki and various analyses of Minecraft's code, are roughly 5% and 50% respectively. Notably, this is all about 2 months before the speedrun.com mod team released their own paper and video on the topic of Dream's excessively good luck, meaning that they were not the first to suggest that his luck was too good to be true. Meanwhile, the speedrunner that made that first tweet has since deleted it, which is why I'm not publicly naming him here. Even with that tweet gone though, the discussion has clearly stayed. Dream went on to submit his 19-minute, 24-second run, after which there were 2 full months of relative silence before the mod team released their decision to reject Dream's speedrun, accompanied by a video and paper explaining the statistical evidence that informed that decision. According to the video and paper put forth by the moderators, the odds that any speedrunner in the community could get that lucky without using a modified client, not just Dream specifically, but any and all speedrunners in the entire community, were 1 in 7.5 trillion. 2 weeks later, Dream produced a response video of his own, which I should note he has since made private for reasons he hasn't publicly disclosed, accompanied by a mathematical response paper produced by an astrophysicist whom Dream hired to help him. According to the astrophysicist's paper, the moderator's paper failed to properly correct for data bias, and the actual probability of Dream's good luck should be 1 in 10 million or better. This is where the story gets a bit tricky, since now the arguments on both sides are based entirely on statistics and coin flip probabilities, which can make it rather hard to make heads or tails of the situation. Pun intended. Fortunately, several channels have already tackled the math and done quite an excellent job of it, so rather than attempt to redo their work using my own lack of a math background, I've done my best to give a lightning speed nutshell summary of their videos here. I had to cut out a lot of important detail and nuance to make that happen, so if these explanations feel inadequate or lightweight, then I encourage you to check out their full videos. I've left some handy links in the description. Stand-Up Maths and Mathemaniac both started with an emphatic disclaimer that they had no horse in this race.
I am interested in what's going on, but I haven't got an interest, like an investment, in either of the two parties.
I don't watch Dream, but I also have nothing against him. This is an entirely independent channel and I don't wish to be involved in any drama.
Before going on to recalculate from scratch the odds of Dream's luck happening on an unmodified client, both reaching much the same conclusion as the moderator's paper.
The overall probability is 5.0 times 10 to the negative 23. That's a 1 in 2 times 10 to the 22 chance. A 2 with 22 zeros after it. Getting a result as good or better than what Dream got is vanishingly unlikely.
Even if I use the astrophysicist correction factors, I get 1.39 times 10 to the minus 11 as the p-value, which is still 1 in 72 billion. And I still have no idea how the astrophysicist came up with the 1 in 100 million chance figure here.
And then moving on to critique the papers produced by both the moderation team and Dream's astrophysicist.
The moderation team at speedrun.com, they released a 29-page PDF.
They very carefully calculated an upper bound in Dream's favor. And if I had one criticism of their paper, they go into a level of technical detail and language that's so dense it feels almost deliberately obtuse. I don't think it's malicious. I just think they were so worried about people going through their argument with a fine-tooth comb that they overdid the technical language and the details, and I don't think it's amazing math communication.
Dream responded with both a video of their own on their second channel and their own 19-page PDF written by an anonymous astrophysicist who Dream paid to write this mathematical report for them. And I'll be honest, I accused the previous paper of being a bit obtuse. This one is not nonsensical, but it's clearly just trying to pad together enough maths that a surface reading of it gives some element of doubt. So I'll give you 2 examples of what I mean. It's missing a closing bracket. That is an unforgivable sin in mathematics and certainly does not indicate that this was put together with care and fact-checking attention. And here, this number, the actual odds come out to be about 1 in 6,300. That number is incorrect. And it's just indicative of a lack of care and attention when putting together even their own hypothetical example.
The math used in Dream's video and his astrophysicist paper was at best questionable, and judging by the comments, I don't think enough people know this. Our estimated probability is 3.97 times 10 to the minus 5, which is about 1 in 25,189. Again, this is way smaller than 1 in 6,300, and I have no idea where this number comes from. And don't get me started on the code snippet here. The author tried to simulate the pearl trade giving 4 to 8 ender pearls like what they did in Minecraft, but if you actually run the code, you can never get 8 ender pearls. The maximum we get is 7 ender pearls.
I know I started as a disinterested party, but I can say of the 2 papers, this one is by a long shot the least convincing. Please don't come and brigade me. Dream stands. I'm just going off the maths here.
Mathemaniac stopped there, since
All I'm trying to do is to criticize the math used by astrophysicists, not the character of Dream or the astrophysicist.
Meanwhile, Stand-Up Maths continued.
And if every single human, there are 10 billion of us, were all doing the same thing every single second, non-stop, around the clock, for a century, that thing will have occurred 3 times 10 to the 19 times. For Dream's live streams, they had odds in the region of 2 times 10 to the 22. That is way above the 3 times 10 to a 19, 10 billion human second centuries.
What I'm saying is, if every single human in existence was doing a speed run of Minecraft every single second, around the clock, every human doing it for a century, the odds are still you would never see a result anywhere near what Dream got. There's just no way this happened. I'm not assigning guilt. I'm just saying that definitively, as a disinterested party, I can confirm these speedruns done by Dream should not be included in the list of world records because the version of Minecraft they were played on does not match what we think it should.
Carl Jobst, meanwhile, is a longtime speedrunner and speedrunning enthusiast with experience in many games. He had a lot of interesting perspective to add, including this look at how others have pulled the relevant code straight out of Minecraft to simulate trillions of pearl barters and blaze kills, and find out if the odds are really what they're supposed to be.
The mechanics of Minecraft are governed by code, and code is all you need to accurately simulate particular outcomes. A computer can run the exact same underlying code literally millions of times per second. Ultimately, we can, and have, run trillions and trillions of simulations to see what kind of drops we could expect. There are many different simulations being run by many different people, and not a single one has come anywhere near the types of rates that Dream experienced. For all intents and purposes, it is impossible to replicate what happened. The results of multiple simulations have also been cross-checked with the same math used by the moderators to find Dream's odds, and they agree with the results. This means that figures such as 1 in a million, 1 in 10 million, or even 1 in 100 million are demonstrably false. The Enderpearl barter rates and blaze rod drop rates in Dream streams are for all intents and purposes mathematically impossible. Given all of the available facts, I believe the only reasonable conclusion is that Dream was playing on a version of Minecraft that had been altered in order to give himself an unfair advantage.
So the evidence is extremely overwhelming. Dream did use a modified version of Minecraft for his speedruns. That shouldn't even be a question at this point. But does that fact really change anything at all? For all the debate there's been about whether or not Dream used a modified client, there's been very little talk, at least that I've seen, as to how that would actually reflect on Dream as a person. Modding the game for an advantage and then trying to hide it is a pretty big mistake. But every person makes big mistakes. You can just look at the rest of my channel. That's a pretty good example right there. More importantly, there seems to be this unspoken assumption floating around that because Dream cheated the RNG for his speedruns, that makes him a bad person, and if you still like his videos, that means you're a bad person too. But obviously that just isn't true at all. Your mistakes don't define your character, but the way you handle them does. Dream has already shown a fair amount of character throughout this ordeal by acknowledging the immaturity of his knee-jerk reaction to having a virtual mob descend on him, and by walking back a lot of the things that he said. He has discouraged his fan base from sending hate to the speedrun.com moderation team several times, and he has ultimately agreed to disagree with the moderation team regarding the rejection of his speedrun. Dream made a mistake. Dream is still a good person. Dream makes good videos. It's still perfectly fine to enjoy them. With all that being said, one thing Dream obviously hasn't done is to publicly acknowledge and apologize for the fact that he modded the game for higher drop rates, which begs the question, should he? I mean, it's practically water under the bridge at this point, and while no one has forgotten, almost everyone has moved on. Dream is still allowed to submit new speedruns, almost all of the drama and discussion related to the events of 4 months ago has gone away, and there's simply not that much to be gained from suddenly turning around and saying that he had been lying about using mods this whole time. While the positives of a public confession and apology are few, the negatives, meanwhile, are very real for Dream. It's really easy for you or me to sit here and say that he should confess and apologize because it's the right thing to do, but Dream, meanwhile, has millions of voices shouting back at whatever he says, and not all of them have nice things to say. Being popular or famous can be an extremely stressful experience, and that's only compounded by the fact that we tend to hold our celebrities, internet or otherwise, to a much higher standard than we hold ourselves. Dream made one big mistake? Clearly he's a bad person and nothing he ever says or does could ever redeem him. I mean, it's ridiculous to say out loud, but everybody loves a good witch hunt, and if Dream reverses on his position now, he could easily go from being popular to hate. With that thought in mind, I actually decided to research the precedent and see if there are any cases of people landing in situations similar to Dream's, and I have to say, it was surprisingly hard to find a good comparison to Dream's situation. There have been tons of athletes, esports professionals, and YouTubers that have been caught cheating at their own game of choice in one way or another, but to have someone with a large following be caught cheating and then deny it for some period of time is pretty much unheard of. The closest comparison I could find, the only one I think is similar enough to be worth discussing, frankly, is FaZe Jarvis. Jarvis had a few million subscribers when he uploaded a video showing himself aimbotting in Fortnite, after which he was promptly served a permanent ban. We can see that following the initial spike in search interest at the time of his ban, search interest stayed up, and over on Social Blade we can see that his views and subscriber growth have held on at least half decently, especially given that he could no longer play the main game that he was known for in the first place. This comparison really starts to break down though with the fact that Jarvis was his own accuser. He was banned because he uploaded a video where he openly discussed the fact that he was using an aimbot. There was no period of denying the allegations, and there was an apology video less than 2 months after the ban was issued. Overall, there really doesn't seem to be a good enough comparison to Dream's situation to say with confidence how things would go down if he suddenly confessed now. It's safe to say that there would be at least some backlash and at least some people continuing to stand by him, but it's really hard to say how much of each there would be. Overall, would it be worth it? Probably not. Although if he did choose to go this route in spite of the tremendous risks to his reputation and personal brand, I personally would have tremendous new levels of respect for Dream. Part 3. Where do we go from here? There's yet another interesting discussion hiding right underneath our noses in the midst of all this drama. Why does this game have so much RNG in the first place? I could build an argument against it myself, but I'd be hard-pressed to explain it better than Carl Jobst did, so here's another excerpt from his video.
Speedrunning is not just about skill, it's also heavily reliant on luck. And it doesn't matter how good you are, if you don't get the luck you need, you simply can't get the time that you're truly capable of. In my experience, when it comes to luck-based games, players don't cheat to get a faster time, they cheat to get a time faster. Let's assume for a moment that Dream did increase the Ender Pearl barter rates. How much time did he ultimately save? Well, given that there are multiple barters per run, the increased odds compound very quickly. On average, in order to get the same barter luck as Dream, you would need to play between 300 to 900 hours. And this is before even considering the increased drop rates for blaze rods. Hundreds of hours is a long time. People might ask, why speedrun at all, if you don't want to deal with the randomness? Well, the simple fact of the matter is that speedrunning is fun. While many people don't enjoy the lottery aspect, almost every other element is fantastic. The luck element is likely the worst part, and many people who still enjoy speedrunning just don't want to deal with it.
RNG has no place in a skill-based game. Sometimes RNG punishes a player when they do well, and sometimes it rewards a player when they do poorly. Of course, there are some types of pseudo-randomness that make the game more interesting, like how each seed is incredibly unique and has to be played in a very different way. Simple types of randomness, like the 50% blaze drop rate, however, don't make the game more interesting. They just make it more frustrating. This is yet another reason why I empathize with Dream for choosing to mod the game and reduce the importance of luck in the first place. It's simply not something that should be in the game in the first place. Really, the only thing Dream did wrong was to not be forthcoming about the fact that he was using a mod. As a matter of fact, It's my hope that in the future we could have a speedrun category specifically for versions of the game that are modded to reduce the importance of RNG. That might sound far-fetched, but speedrun.com actually already has a new category called Filtered Seed Glitchless, which uses a web app to spit out seeds that are guaranteed to have important features like villages, bastions, and fortresses, all in close proximity to spawn. Links and info are in the description. The point is, there's already a precedent of having a separate speedrunning category that is less dependent on luck, and personally I intend to take that a step further by creating a mod to get rid of at least some of the luck-dependent parts of the game. I'll probably be releasing that mod sometime in the next few weeks alongside some new speedrunning videos that I'm planning to make, so consider subscribing if you're interested to see it. In any case, that pretty much wraps up everything that I had to say on this topic. I hope you found it interesting, and thanks for watching.